Welcome back to another episode of Obsessed by Everything Bravo. My name is Meredith, and I am your host on this journey through the Housewives. And thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all my listeners and now viewers. So if you're interested in watching video, you can check me out on YouTube. It's just Obsessed by Bravo. YouTube. YouTube.com. I don't know. Actually, I don't know the address. Just search it. And if you love the show, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. But if you would like to, help the show out in any way you can, monetarily, you can always donate to buy me a coffee. That's going to be in the show notes. You can just click there right in whatever app that you're watching this through. You'll find that link and you can donate any amount 50 cents, $5, anything would be appreciated. But on top of that, non monetarily, because I understand that the economy is what it is, you can give me a rating and review. It really, really helps the show. It helps me get out there, get my name out there. And also, if you would share me with a friend, because if you're someone who likes the housewives and likes deep diving into the housewives, I bet you have a friend or two that would also be interested in this type of content. So if you could just do me a huge favor and share my podcast with someone who would like that, I would love it. I would really, really appreciate it. So let's get to talking about the housewives since we both love it. We are going to be talking today about Beverly Hills Season 2, Episode 3. Now, this is entitled Rocky Mountain Highs and Lows. That's okay. I mean, it makes me think of John Denver. It's definitely not the worst title, but I feel like they could do better. One thing I really like to pride myself on is my title ideas. Some of them I come up, I would say 90% of them I might come up with myself. But now I'm just starting to take lines from the show because, especially in Jersey, that shit was so good. New Year, same assholes. Are you telling me? I had to use that. Like, that was the best thing I'd ever heard. Okay, let's get into the third episode. So we left off with Kyle, everybody, we're all at Camille's. One of Camille's properties that they have to sell, so she's going to enjoy it before they have to sell it, right? So they're taking a cast trip there. And we left off after they did a day of skiing and hijinks. We left off with Kyle and Taylor in the hot tub. Okay. Drinking, and Taylor is upset about her marriage, right? Talking about how she doesn't want to be alone and she's scared of being alone. She's been holding in a lot of anger because she's not able to use her voice, and she has a lot of resentment toward Russell for that. To which I say, what's the point? Like, also, what if you left him and there's somebody better out there for you? Have you considered that? Instead of just staying with this miserable man, what if you could have something better? That thought crossed your mind at all? Anyway, so we open up with some B-roll footage of Camille's home and with a voiceover from Lisa. And she said, they've had a great day skiing and everybody has been getting along fantastic through this whole trip. Like that trip up there was a little bit of but everybody so far is getting along. They went to dinner. They had breakfast. They were flirting with ski guys. They went skiing. Everyone had fun. And now Kyle and Taylor are in the hot tub. Taylor's drank a whole bottle of wine and she's getting emotional. And then Camille tells us that after a long day of skiing, she wanted to take a nap. Agree. Like I do enjoy a hot tub, don't get me wrong, but also napping after skiing. I've never been skiing and I'm never going to ski because, again, I don't like cold, but I understand what it's like to have a full day of activities and then a nap after that. Wow. So she's in her bedroom napping. She's not aware of what's going on. And then Kim also said she needed to lay down after skiing. But then we open up with her laying down in her bed, and Taylor's there, also laying in her bed in Kim's room, which is also Kyle's room, by the way. And Kim tells us, like, I was in the deepest sleep, and then Taylor came running into my room. She jumped on top of me, says she drank too much, and she was then just emotionally unloading on Kim, saying that how she grew up with nothing and she's scared to go back to that. Okay, so that's the thing she's scared of. It's not being alone. It's losing all of her wealth. And wealth relatively is wealth status, etc., because she grew up with nothing. She doesn't want to be poor again. And I get it. And to that I say, make your own money, make your own way. You were already there. Now, I'm sure you were not to the level of whatever Russell was giving you, but you were already there when you met him. You can't go back to that. Also, take this man for everything he's fucking worth. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Get Camille's divorce attorney or get a good one and rob the man blind. You know what I mean? Like, you deserve it. But that's really what she's scared about. She's not scared to be alone. She's scared to be poor without resources. So Kim is actually giving her a pep talk, and she's like, you're a hard worker. You don't have to go back to nothing. You can make this on your own. And Taylor is like, well, that's why I relate to you, Kim, more than Adrienne, because Adrienne doesn't have problems. Babe, have you seen an interaction with her and Paul? And let me take a minute to just remind you that Adrienne is very much, and we'll see this in a minute, she is very aware of cameras, and she's very aware of how they act on camera. She was like that last year. She's getting ready to be like that in a minute, and we'll talk about it. So you're telling me that Adrienne has no problems when she herself is very aware that we're all watching her, and she still acts like this with her husband? What do you mean? What? Okay. Kim's like, everyone has problems and that Taylor needs to focus on all the good things she has in her life. And Taylor's like, yeah, well, I always focus on the bad things, especially all those things that I did to you last year. So now she's like crying about all the shit her and Kim were fighting last year. So Kyle's like listening at the door this whole time. And so she comes in, and Taylor tells Kim that she's really sorry about what she did to her last year. And Kim was like, don't worry about it. It's over. And Taylor was like, I was such a dick to you. And Kim goes, I know. And then all three of them like have like a huge laugh, and it's sweet, right? She apologized to Kim for being mean to her last year, and that was needed. And now they can move on. Okay. So now we go up, and Camille is having some private chefs over cook them a meal. Okay, cool. Kyle is ready. So some time has passed. Kyle is, I don't know if she showered or what, but she's got makeup on. She looks nice. Not like she was just got out of the hot tub. So it's been a little bit. And Kyle and Adrienne are chatting, and then and she's kind of telling her, Taylor's upset, and because Taylor and Adrienne are friends, right? Adrienne is who brought Taylor into the group. So she's telling her, she's upset about Russell and her marriage and all this stuff. And then they're all kind of like, well, where are they? So Kyle goes to find Kim and Taylor. And she goes into her room, and she's kind of like tussling with the door, like as if someone's on the other side of the door and not letting her in. So she finally gets it open, and Kim's like, Taylor and Kim were in this closet. And Kyle pops in to tell us, like, we were having such a great time, and then all of a sudden, and it's Taylor, you just see Kim goes, Taylor's in a suitcase. Taylor's literally sitting in Kyle's suitcase. She put all the clothes on top of her. She's like underneath a mountain of clothes. She's intoxicated, and she's just like got this sourpuss look on her face, like her lip is out, and she goes, I want to go home, like a child. And then so they're like, well, you can't go home. We're also filming a television show. Pull yourself fucking together. So Kyle was like, maybe it's the combination of the altitude, the alcohol, the thinness, but all of a sudden she starts to go crazy. And then Adrienne says, well, I just heard people yelling and drawers slamming, and it didn't seem like they were playing around. It was intense. And so we hear a lot of stuff, and it's all behind closed doors. We do not see much. And then Kim goes to get Adrienne. She's like, you need to come and talk to Taylor because, Taylor's having a horrible moment. Okay, so what's happening is she was sitting in the suitcase in her robe. They get her up. They're like, we have to get you dressed. We have to get you ready. We got to put you some makeup on. So she's looking for her makeup bag and she cannot find her makeup bag. And so she starts going nuts and throwing stuff around, yelling. She's like looking everywhere for her makeup bag. She cannot find it. Everybody is kind of like, they're all in the basement. So everybody's kind of like down there. But of course, we've got multiple camera people, sound boom operators, right? The women. And we're in like this hallway with like bedrooms. And so Lisa's down there and she's like, runs into Taylor and she's like, I didn't know what she was trying to say. It doesn't make any sense. She's trying to say her makeup is gone. Adrienne tells us that Taylor was disoriented. And of course, Taylor doesn't want to have these conversations with Lisa. She doesn't feel safe with Lisa, so she's not trying to talk to Lisa. So she's just kind of pulling away and running, going down to these other rooms. So now they're all like looking for this makeup bag and they find it. And Kyle was like, it was in my room next to my makeup bag the entire time. Like, why? I don't understand why, so, and it's really, I'm not sure who, what, when, where, why, how, who was doing what at what point. Like, obviously Kyle was not aware that they were looking for her makeup bag because she knew where it was, right? So it's just very, very strange, very disorienting. Taylor's starting to get angry with everyone. Like her sadness has now turned to anger, and Lisa says that Taylor is drinking to cope with her marriage, and now her behavior is irrational. Camille is like not around. And then I guess Lisa and Adrienne go back upstairs, and that's when they start to tell Camille, and they're kind of like, something's happening with Taylor. And she says that they didn't give her specifics, but all she knew was that Taylor was upset. And then Adrienne whispers to Kyle and she's like, I think Taylor's having a nervous breakdown, which is like such a, I was like, well, when's the last time someone used the term nervous breakdown? But so she's having like some kind of anxiety attack. She's having a mental health crisis, I guess is what we would say now. I was like, nervous breakdown. Adrienne, please. Is this the 1950s? Okay, so we go to commercial break. We come back, and Camille is asking Lisa what's going on. So Lisa's like, well, they were in the jacuzzi, and they had a few drinks. They're trying to feed Taylor, and she's like, I can't eat. I never eat. And Adrienne tells us that Taylor looks different. Her eyes were glossy, and she says that she just like wasn't in the moment. And here's where Taylor's really trying to, or where Adrienne is really trying to correct Taylor and be like, babe, you can't act like this. Like you're on camera. They're going to use this footage. You've got to get yourself together. Taylor couldn't think that far. And this is sort of the part where I'm like, yeah, she is having a nervous breakdown. She's having a nervous breakdown because she's been broken down. And you're putting her in a new situation, altitude, no food, bus, another bus, no food, no sleep. You're adding all this stuff up plus alcohol. This is how people are going to act when you're putting her in a stressful situation and then you're fucking recording it. Like someone somewhere should have stopped, because this is not just like, I'm going to therapy to work out my issues. This woman is in a crisis, and she's in a crisis the entire season. This is just our first like glimpse into the reality, but it's because she's doing too much therapy. You know what I mean? Like, she's doing too much. She's trying to change too much at once. For what reason? We don't know now at the time, but she's literally losing her mind. And then they're filming it. and I think Adrienne is here and she's trying to be like, "Hey, get it together. Get it together. You got to get it together. We're on camera. Eat something. Put some makeup on." They're really trying to get her to just be like be more aware of her surroundings. And like in the little moments when they're drinking too much and they're having fun and we enjoy those moments. Yes. This is not that. This woman is in a crisis and they're still filming it. What's so it's like one of those situations where it's like, should we feel bad about enjoying this? And for me, I say no, because um, I think it's important. It's exactly the reason why I like the Housewives in the first place. It's important to witness this moment, especially now looking back, knowing Taylor's safe, knowing Taylor's okay, everything's worked out for her. I mean, not it wasn't like rainbows and unicorns, right? But she's okay now. And being able to look back and analyze what was going on with her and being able to maybe like recognize situations like for your own self. I mean, I feel like you would be lying if you could say that you've never been in a situation similar to this. Like, have I been doing psychotherapy with an abusive husband on a ski trip where I got drunk and lost my mind in front of television cameras? No, I have never been in that situation, but I have been in situations where I've been extremely vulnerable, had mental health crises in around people that I trusted, and woke up in the next day to like regret everything I did and said, and having to move forward with those consequences, right? We've all been in those vulnerable situations. So I don't know. It makes me feel icky, but also no. And also, it was not my choice to sign up for this reality TV show. It was not I'm not a producer. I'm not an editor. I'm not an executive of this show. This is not the reason I watch this show or continue to watch these shows. And so maybe I can just separate myself a little bit from it from there. But I don't know. I mean, you tell me if you feel bad about it. I do and I don't. And that's just it. So Adrienne's really trying to get her to like be normal to try to save herself so she doesn't act crazy and embarrass herself on camera. So they're trying to get her to eat like some appetizers and things like that. Also, there's like 4 chefs just in the kitchen. This is like a home. It's not like a restaurant. So they're all just like there. They're sitting around the kitchen island and the chefs are like preparing meals and they're all just having these conversations like, "You're having a nervous breakdown." So then they go to be seated in like the dining room and Taylor sees Camille and she was like, it's really just like sitting in Mason's room, which Mason is one of Camille's son. And then she starts crying and she's like, and recognizing what he did to you. Um, and Lisa tells us that Taylor always looked like such a victim. She's always dissolving in tears. And now everyone is going back and forth through the table. They're talking about Taylor's marriage. And she's just like sitting there, like this deer in a headlight, looking at everybody. It's such a weird scene because they're all giving their opinion on what's going on in Taylor's marriage. And it's like, they actually don't know. They don't know. They don't know because and even Kyle, who arguably I would say she's probably the closest to on the cast, or she's like the most friendly with, and Adrienne too. Kyle is saying she never says what the issue is. She just like talks about how upset she is, but we don't know what these. So none of these people actually know the real thing. They've just heard little things. So then the chef comes out. And they're like, can I tell you guys about the soup? And they're like, yes, please, please, please. And at this point, Lisa and Kyle are just kind of like looking at each other across the table, giving each other eyes, and they're like looking back, giving each other like they're having like a intense conversation just by looking around. It's really interesting to watch. So we go to commercial break and then we cut to LA and the men have gone out. Russell can't go because he's in San Diego. So we haven't seen Russell. This is the 3rd episode. We haven't seen him. We are not going to for now. And so it's just Paul, Mauricio, and Ken. And they're all going out And then I'm thinking if they're all going out because the ladies are in Colorado. And I'm thinking if Taylor's in Colorado and Russell's in San Diego, who has got their kid? Like, what? What? Who's watching their kid? Mm, anyway, Ken says, they're hijinks, of course. At one point, Mauricio is talking and he's like, "Yeah, I really want to do that like para skiing," which what I'm assuming is you get dropped out of a plane and then you land and ski. Sounds like too much for me. I don't want to do regular skiing. I don't ever want to ski. I don't like being cold. But the thought of being dropped out of a plane and then skiing no, again is like not I think I'm a little too old for that now. Honestly, Mauricio is a little too old for that. He's like 40. Anyway, so they're talking, and then at one point, Ken does say that he's sorry he ever talked about therapy because he didn't mean to hurt Taylor, and he's really sorry that he hurt her the way that he did. And to that, I say, tell her that. I do appreciate that you like he recognized in the moment that he had made a misstep and said something he shouldn't have, but I would say that sentiment needs to be told to her. But whatever. Okay, so after commercial, we go back to Camille's, and the ladies are all still at the dinner table, and they're continuing to talk about the issue. And Kyle is like, you know what? Camille gave her marriage her all. I mean, think she was shaving his back for God's sake, and it still didn't work out. And Taylor's like, well, Russell doesn't cheat on me. So are you defending this man or do you hate this man? Like, what the fuck? And so then Adrienne says, well, there are things that are worse than cheating. And Taylor gives her a look, like a very pointed look, like, don't bring up the things that are worse than cheating. And so Adrienne tells us, look, I've not ever seen Russell treat her badly, but there's rumors in Beverly Hills and also things that Taylor has told the girls. So I don't know what to think. And then Lisa just continues on this conversation at the table and she says, yeah, if somebody like raises a hand to you, for example, how long would you be there? And Kyle's like, everybody's like, no, we wouldn't be there at all. And Kyle's like, let's pretend that you have the strength and courage and you left him. And then Taylor says, for the safety of my daughter. And then Lisa's like, don't you think you deserve better than the way you've been treated? And Taylor's like, I don't think that I do. And Lisa's like, well, there's your problem. Like your problem lies with you. And Adrienne tells us, I don't think Taylor knows what to do. She's afraid to leave. She's afraid to be alone. And the ladies are encouraging her. They're telling her she's strong. Even if she got a divorce, that's not a failure. And then Adrienne says something that I'm like, do you hear yourself? She says, sometimes two happy homes are better than one bad one for your children. Babe, please, can you listen to your own advice? Like, oh my God, I've been telling you that this whole time. And then Taylor says, but I'm in love with him. And that makes me sad. What? No, I don't believe you. No, if you love someone, that shouldn't make you sad. Okay. Like, I'm so sorry. This is like, okay, it makes me think about now Alex Earl. Maybe, I don't know what the Venn diagram of people that watch Housewives, listen to podcasts, and enjoy Alex Earl content, but there's at least one person because it's me. But Alex Earl recently, she is, and if you don't know who that is, she's an influencer, and she was recently on Dancing with the Stars, and she's getting, has millions and millions of followers. She's been getting a lot of new like opportunities, right? She's been dating a guy that played for the NFL. Now, she went to school in Miami, and so her main home base was in Miami. He plays for the Miami Dolphins. Now, my thing is also like he could be traded at any time. Like, what is she supposed to move to Indianapolis? Like, you know what I mean? They live in she lives in Miami. Anyway. So, but she's been getting a lot of new opportunities, and she came on like this week and was basically like, we love each other, but we can't be together because we're kind of going on two different paths here. And even though I love him, it's just not going to work. That is a situation where you love someone, but you're sad. You're sad because it can't work out because of his scenarios. And maybe like in a year or two, maybe they can come back, or maybe not. Oh God, sorry. Maybe not, whatever. This is not that. She should not be sad if she's truly in love. Like if she's truly in love, she should be happy, and she should be not whatever is going on here. Not whatever's going on here. Adrienne says, "Are you in love? Or are you just afraid to be alone?" And then she doesn't have an answer. So then Kyle, trying to break up the seriousness of the dinner, pops in and says, "Wow, this is such a fun dinner." And then Kim's like, every dinner at Camille's has always been really entertaining. So then Kim, in a confessional, tells us that this whole thing should not have been discussed at dinner table, and that none of them should be talking about Taylor's marriage. This is something that Taylor's going to have to work out for herself. And she really thinks like everybody should just change the subject. And LVP pops in and she tells us, this day ended a lot differently than how it started. But, at this point, Taylor needed her friends to sort her life out. Like she needed help from her friends. So they go to commercial break, and then we're back on the show, and we're landing in LA. And then in my mind, I was like, did they have to drive another 4 hours to get back to the airport? Like, oh my God. And Kim says the trip was a wonderful experience. They all skied and had fun, but Taylor had a bad time. And she feels like the next morning when they were all together, that Taylor had that kind of like remorseful, anxiety inducing feeling where she's like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what I said. And like, I will say that no matter what, this is one of the main reasons that I don't drink anymore, because it's called anxiety. And you wake up, and I will just like have like a margarita, like at my own home where I talk to nobody. And I'll be like, oh my God, what did I do? You know what I mean? So I can't imagine the anxiety producing that was like, knowing that you're on a TV show, it's like, you don't know what you did. Adrienne says that the trip was emotionally draining, and she left with a heavy head. And Kyle and Adrienne are in a limo to go home. And Kyle was like, what was that about last night? And Adrienne goes, it was really bad. I've never seen her so skinny. And Kyle says, she's so stressed that she can't eat. She has so much going on. She's hit her breaking point. And Adrienne was like, she was like mumbling at one point. I had to just grab her and say, relax. You've got to relax. And then Kyle's like, it seems like she's fighting, but is this something that she really should be fighting for at this point? So now we go over to Camille, and she is in her Malibu property with Dee Dee. But Camille didn't come back with them. So it's just like, what is Camille's travel schedule like? Also, are her kids with her? Like, do the kids are they with Kelsey? Like, I just have so many questions. And this is also a thing where her kids are not on the show anymore. I'm sure that was in the divorce agreement. It's just like Sonia's daughter's not allowed on the show. A new character that we'll meet, her kids aren't allowed on the show. These people, these shitty husbands make up all these arbitrary rules that then cut off these women from a huge part of their life where we can't see their family and home life because their kids are not allowed to film. And while part of me is like, yeah, we shouldn't do like the Gia Judice thing where we're exploiting a child for views, right? That's not what I'm saying. But it is nice to just have a kid pop in and you're like doing like a dinner scene and they're just like cute, or a homework scene. These people don't ever get that opportunity. So Camille is kind of discussing if she wants to continue to stay on this Malibu property because it's so large, and she's like, why do we need it when it's just her and the kids? To that I say, it was just one extra person when it was Kelsey. Why did you need it then? And then Dee Dee, they're just kind of chatting, and Dee Dee says, when you take away the lifestyle and the homes that you and Kelsey had, what do you actually miss the most? And Camille says, "Well, I miss having a partner to do everything with." And I wrote, "What a layup!" Like this scene is clearly orchestrated by Camille to so she could have Dee Dee sit here and ask her questions, and they could film it, and she could look good on camera. Which I don't know. It's like, she wants to be like, "Well, I missed having a partner and someone to share things with." No, you don't. I don't think that you do. I really don't. I don't think that you do. I think that you miss having a A-list husband and all the opportunities that afforded you. I mean, maybe a little bit, but the way that this was just like presented was just like, come on now, Camille. So then Dee Dee asked about the trip, and Camille's like, I had a great time. We laughed with all the girls. I mean, everybody was getting along really well, but there was like this really uncomfortable moment where Taylor started crying at the dinner table and she was like having a breakdown. And Camille tells us, that their situations are different because Taylor is actually really, really trying to work things through in her marriage, but Camille was never given that opportunity, and she would have liked to been able to work things through. So now Kyle and Mauricio are going out to eat, and she tells us that she's hesitant to tell him about what happened in Colorado because she's embarrassed and she doesn't want him to think that all the ladies are insane. I'm sorry. You're embarrassed about this trip when you and Camille got into such a fight that Camille fired Mauricio as their real estate agent. Like, and then you outed your own sister for her alcoholism. That's you're embarrassed about this? This is not he he already knows these people are insane, okay? Like, don't even worry about it. So then Mauricio asks about it, and so he's like, you never actually told me what happened in Colorado. And he was like, it seems like maybe it was more intense than you let on. And Kyle was like, it just seemed like all of a sudden Taylor snapped. She was crying and she seemed so fragile, but she's vague about all the issues. Like, I don't actually know what she's upset about. And she tells him about walking in on Kim and Taylor and how they were talking and connecting. And she says, it was really nice to see Kim connecting with someone because, last year she was so distant from all the ladies and she's finally making friends. And that makes her feel like, okay, like if she's making friends with them, there's a place for me to make up with her. She says, we haven't been on the same page since the fight that we had. But now we're in a place where we can at least have fun with each other again. And Mauricio actually gets his confessional and he tells us that he's happy that Kyle and Kim are working on their relationship, but he's actually really hurt about all the allegations that Kim threw on him. And so then we get a flashback. We've had several flashbacks to the limo scene, but he was basically like, or the one where Kim said that he stole her house. And he says that it was hurtful to learn how Kim actually felt about him. And he feels like everything he's ever done for her was meaningless. And he wants her to get some help for herself, like some real help, like probably what Taylor, what we need to switch these people. And then once he knows that she's really working on herself, then he can be like, okay with what she said, which to me, I actually never thought about this before. I guess because it's such a blip in the everything that's happening. I actually never thought about how Mauricio felt because, these sisters are so intertwined, and Kyle says, my husband treated you like another wife. And I think obviously she means like financially taking care of, and Mauricio, to me, he seems like he's just this really kind, magnanimous person. And at this time, Kyle and Mauricio are very much in love and they're very happy. Oh God, it makes me sad. Obviously they're divorced at this time currently, but and I mean when Kyle and Mauricio got a divorce, it was really like mom and dad got a divorce. That's how it felt because true at this time they really were happy, and he to be with Kyle, he had a stepdaughter and he had to take on Kim's craziness and all of her kids. but he also got a job working with Rick's real estate firm. So I don't know. I never really thought about how Mauricio felt before with all that, and just how he was just like thrown aside, and he probably felt really shitty about all the things that he'd done for her, and she didn't appreciate it. But I mean, she doesn't appreciate anything that Kyle has done for her either. But I mean, the reality is that she's an addict, and they just don't treat people well sometimes. And everybody is affected. It's not like something that's just like, oh, it's just only one or two people, it only affects them. That's not the case. Everyone is affected. So then we go to um, Lisa, and she's meeting Guillermo at SUR because there is a space next door that I guess is vacant, and they want to maybe think about expanding the property of SUR so they can have a larger restaurant. And so we just kind of go through that. We meet Guillermo. I don't know if we met Guillermo last year, but he's one of the co-owners of SUR. Weirdly, I took a deep dive because, on his Instagram, because we eventually, after next season or in the middle of next season, we'll eventually get to Vanderpump Rules. Now, Vanderpump Rules is a television show, probably one of the best at one point, one of the best shows on Bravo. Like no lie, it was very. It's like lightning in a bottle, right? And we'll start that when we get into Beverly Hills season 3 because they're like kind of commingled. It's a spinoff, essentially. But it takes place at SUR, and it is about the people who work at SUR. Well, Guillermo and Natalie, their married couple, are the co-owners with Lisa and Ken. And so they just released a new season of SUR, and it's got a whole new cast. It's not the same cast. And so everybody, and I didn't even know they were doing this. Like, for whatever reason, it didn't get into my brain. But we saw the first part of the first episode at BravoCon. That was like one of the things that we saw. And I stayed and I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, it made me excited because I didn't even know it was happening. I mean, I had heard of it, but I didn't know that they had filmed and it was like ready to watch. So I'd heard of it, and I didn't have good thoughts about it. And then I saw the episode and I was like, oh my God, this is actually pretty good. So I was excited I'm texting my girlfriend. So I was like, wow, the new Vanderpump Rules is going to be good. So I'm watching the Vanderpump Rules now. And for some reason did a deep dive of Guillermo on Instagram. First of all, I thought he was French, and I'm pretty sure he's from Argentina because SUR was originally, I think SUR was originally his restaurant with someone else in that space, and it was just Argentinian food. And it's been open for a really long time. But I think what must have happened is at some point, and I don't know the timeline at all, is that maybe the other owner like wanted to sell or whatever, or maybe the restaurant wasn't doing good. So Lisa and Ken bought like a share or something, and to pump money into it, and then it got revamped into what it is now, because the pictures on his Instagram of like the old SUR look nothing like how the restaurant looks now, and the menu was different and everything was different. And so that's only what I can imagine, which is nothing here nor there, but it just was interesting to me, and I just had found this knowledge out because I really don't care that much about who owns SUR, whatever. But Guillermo is someone who we will get to know a lot when we talk about Vanderpump Rules. So now we go to the next scene, and it's Paul, my favorite. And he's talking to the VP of marketing for their basketball team. Now, remember that Adrienne and her family, the Maloofs, so not Paul and his family, but Adrienne Maloof, they own the Palms Casino in Vegas, and then they own the Sacramento Kings, right? We saw a game. All the women went last year, and now they're talking about going this year. Adrienne wants to go. It's going to be the last home game of the season, so she wants to go. So we find out because Paul is talking, he's calling this guy and he's asking about the mood of the fans. And he's like, there's a lot of emotions right now, and safety for Adrienne is the utmost concern. And so you're like, what the fuck? Well, Adrienne is like, well, we are thinking about selling the team because we need a new arena because the fans deserve it. But if we can't make that happen, then we're going to have to like move the team or sell the team. What do you mean you need a new arena? Buy a new arena. Aren't you a billionaire, babe? Like the way that she's talking about it is like I'm supposed to provide you with a new arena, or Sacramento is supposed to provide you with a new arena for them to be competitive, or someone is just supposed to hand them over a new arena. Now, this kind of shit really pisses me off because I really feel like maybe it was like the Bills or maybe the Patriots, I'm not sure. They're like getting a new mega expensive arena that was paid for with taxpayer money. Why are the taxpayers paying for a basketball or football stadium? What are the taxpayers getting from that? Because are the taxpayers getting free tickets? Are the taxpayers getting free merch? I understand that that's going to bring like jobs in, but these are not high paying CEO jobs. These are like people to work the ticket counter and people to work the beer counter and people to clean up. And maybe people, I mean, obviously people work in the offices, but do you know what I'm saying? Like that's not the majority of that, the jobs. So why do I have to pay for a company to come and give me a job? Like you should come and give me a job because you need people to work for you. I shouldn't have to pay you for that. This is the ooh, this is the shit that really pisses me off. Let's not forget that Adrienne and Paul are MAGA. Never forget, okay? And here's the thing. Yes, while I there are people that I'm like, okay, I like you and I'm disappointed that you're MAGA or whatever. But I like you. And I'll let that slide. And then there's people like Adrienne and Paul. When you find out that they're MAGA and you're just like, okay, I can't like you anymore. I don't like also how can you be MAGA but also demanding that the taxpayers pay for something that's exclusively you're going to use? That's called socialism, babe. So I don't see how that I don't see how those two philosophies can like meld in your mind like that. But anyway, so the fans are all really pissed at the Maloof family and Adrienne because they're getting ready to possibly lose their basketball team. So Paul is rightfully so worried about security. And he's basically like, I don't think we should go. I think everybody's mad. She's like, absolutely not. I'm going. And so the guy is like, well, we're not going to put you in your normal suite. We're going to give you like a different suite. That way people won't know. And so Paul's like, okay. They also have a security guard that's like with them at their house, like the head of security. And Paul's like, how about we just go? Well, how about we just take the plane? We have the plane and we can go to San Francisco and we can go like get a really nice dinner or something like that. And they're like arguing back and forth. And she's like, absolutely not. I'm going. The fans need to see me, et cetera, et cetera, which she's not wrong, but also Paul's not wrong either. And then the poor security guy is just standing there while they're screaming at each other. And now we cut to another scene and it's Taylor and she has her life coach come over. So, and she says that this is on top of all the other therapy that she's doing. So this is at least the third therapy. I don't know if it's three different. I would assume it's three different people because she's got the Dr. Sophie, which we saw them running up a mountain. They're in marriage therapy, and you can't go to. I mean, you can, but again, unethical for you to go to a marriage therapist that's also your therapist because they're going to be biased. Biasy would come in on that because you're here and you're telling them all the shit, you know, like that your husband does. And so then they're going to come into your marriage therapy with all these like, well, Russell does this and Russell does that. It's like you get a one-sided view. Whereas with your marriage therapist, you really need to not have those biases towards one party or the other. So it really should be a different therapist than your marriage therapist. So she's got her Dr. Sophie. I'm assuming a separate person for marriage therapy and a life coach. This is what I'm saying. She's doing too much. You need to pick one of these. I think the I get what I would say is someone like Taylor. What I would recommend. Now nobody asked my fucking opinion, but here you are. we're having this tete-a-tete. My opinion would be Taylor needs to get therapy on her own, and that's it. And then once she's worked through some issues on her own, and if her issue is I push things down and I can't talk about things, once she gets better at that, then we can add on top of or just switch over to marriage counseling and just have one of these things going at a time. Like I can't imagine. No wonder this lady is so scrambled because these three people are telling her different things. We're all on cross purposes here because it just seems weird to me. So, basically, she tells this lady as they're walking in, she's like, all this self-help is making me lose my mind. Yeah, it is. And she's sitting down and she tells this lady about the ski trip and she's like, I think I had a panic attack. No, it was something more than that. Yeah, I've had a panic attack. And no, you were having a nervous breakdown. I actually don't know. I don't know a better term for that. There is one, but that fits really well. And she says, well, I skied and I didn't eat and I was drinking in a hot tub and I got emotional and then it just like got out of control. I couldn't get the reins back on. Yeah. And then it went more and more. And she's like, Kim was divorced and has her perspective on things, and Camille has her perspective on things. And then, my other friends have these good marriages and they have their perspective on things. And it was just like I was getting all these cross messages. I can't handle it anymore. And Taylor says, in retrospect, I should have never talked to my friends about her marriage because it only confuses me. And she says that she really wants to get her marriage back on track, but telling her friends things is just confusing. And that statement confuses me. And what I will say is, I think in the next episode, she basically says, well, Russell and I talked about it, and he says that everybody is just confusing me. So what that actually tells me is that her and Russell had a conversation and he did not like the fact that she went and told all of her friends plus the cameras all the shit that was going on in her marriage. So now he's basically told her, you're not allowed to discuss this anymore. And so she's saying, well, when I get all these different messages, it's just confusing to me. And to that I say, nothing that these people were saying at this table was confusing to me at all. They were saying, you deserve the world, and even if you divorce, you're not a failure, and it's really good that you're working on yourself and you're working on your marriage. You're doing everything to try to make it work, but if it doesn't work out, you're still a strong and beautiful and independent woman, and you can do things. Nothing was confusing, and like maybe you're confused about what's going on in your life, but nothing that the women were saying was confusing to me, because even the people who are like divorced, let's say Camille and Kim, they were saying the same things to her that people like in happy marriages, like Kyle and Lisa, they were all saying the same thing. It's like, yeah, you're trying to work on it. That's great. You should be trying to work on it if you really want it. But do you really want it? Because it seems like you actually don't really want it, because you're really upset about all the things that you're having to do to try to work on this marriage. And also this other stuff that you've told us off camera, you're really upset about, and it's kind of freaking us out. Are you really sure that you want to work on this? Because if you don't want to work on it anymore, you could just leave him and you would be successful. That's literally what they were telling her. And every single one of them was agreeing to that. They were not telling her different. It wasn't like people were being like, you should divorce him and get rid of him. And these other people were like, no, you have to work on your marriage. None of them were arguing. They were all pretty much lockstep in, it's good that you're doing this, but if you don't have to, if you don't want to. So what this whole thing tells me is that Russell said, don't fucking talk about this on camera or to your friend so that they can talk about it on camera. So now we go back to the car and they're driving to the airport, private, of course. And Adrienne is like, I want to sit in my regular seat. The fans need to see me. And Paul is like, you think that you're being just naive. And Adrienne's like, well, I want to face this thing head on. Well, it turns out that they have invited Kim to come to this game with them. And she's like, I invited Kim because I wanted to spend one-on-one time with Kim. I haven't been able to see her. They get to the airport and Kim's not there. So they're like, oh, well, we're already running late because we've been arguing on whether we should even go. So Adrienne is kind of panicking because she's like, the plane will wait all day for us. This is, they don't own the plane. They rented it or whatever. But they're like, they'll wait all day for us. But the game is, they're not going to, delay the game because I'm not there. So we have a schedule that we have to get to. So they call Kim, like to be like, where are you? And she just keeps going, well, who is this? Who is this? And she's like, Adrienne. She's like, who? I don't have time for this. And Paul, who's already like agitated, is like, it's Adrienne and Paul. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she starts rambling. She's like, I feel horrible. I feel horrible. I lost power and I'm trying to get ready and I just feel horrible. And, I'm going to leave the house in 10 minutes, because it's such a nice airport and they have all the planes there. And she's just like rambling. And Paul is literally like, that was weird. She doesn't sound like she's with it. She actually sounds intoxicated. And that, for some reason, this is the cliffhanger that they end up. Is Kim going to make it to the airport? That's what they end us in this episode on. This was a good episode. It was dark. I think that first of all, I think we learned a lot about group dynamics is because Lisa is very skeptical of Taylor. I think she's told us that a couple of times that she doesn't really like Taylor. She doesn't believe Taylor. She thinks Taylor is manipulative and that she's manipulating Kyle and now maybe getting her hooks into Kim. She doesn't understand Taylor at all. And Taylor doesn't trust Lisa either. So we're going to continue to have these people butting heads. And then all this stuff with Taylor, it's just like so dark. And also just like, I don't know, a little bit of a revisionist history in how Taylor is explaining what happened to her life coach. It's like, yeah, it's mostly true, but not really true. And that's a little concerning. And Kim also is acting a little strange. So we will, I guess, open back up at the airport in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.